The following is a very special episode for our Patreon subscribers only. Thank you for the support and keep on geeking on.
And welcome to your very first sample edition of the Patreon shows of stuff. This is going to be really hard to get through. So just so you know, what you guys are watching is our free sample. We are doing, that's why there's 3 episodes this week. We are putting stuff behind the paywall, and this is going to be some of the type of episodes that you will be able to access. Today we are talking about Cobra Kai. Now, why is Cobra Kai under the paywall? Because anything that's going to be a binge show that comes out all the same time, that we don't get a release one episode at a time, is probably going to be behind the paywall, because it's not that important that you get to it, because it takes forever, and that way we don't have to wait for everyone to do their the spoilers and all that stuff, because if you watch it, you'll know what you're getting into. Okay, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the new graphics and all that stuff. Thank you, Blythe, for getting all that stuff done. So let me introduce the panel real quick. So let's see, how am I going to do this today? Let's start out. We have Mr. Skeeter. How are you doing, sir?
I'm awesome.
You're awesome.
I'm actually excited.
You're awesome like Johnny.
I'm awesome like Johnny, but post kick in the face.
Oh, the better Johnny. Outstanding. Yes. And then to the other side, we have Mr. Tyler Romine. How are you doing, bud?
Feeling badass.
There's going to be a lot of that this episode. I get a feeling. Did I pick everybody that definitely has more of a closeness to Johnny than Daniel? I think I did. Okay, and then next up we have Miss Michelle. How are you doing today?
Excellent.
Excellent. So yeah, wow, you are outnumbered today.
I know.
Just a little bit.
A little awkward.
Yeah, it's kind of like the comic book store. The girl comes in and everyone stops talking. Like, just say no. And then finally, we have Mr. John from California. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing splendid. I like to sweep the leg.
You would. Get him a body bag!
Oh.
Honestly, I don't know why that line to this day sticks with me. So let's start talking about the original right off. We will get into Cobra Kai, this series, but we're all old enough to have watched Karate Kid originally and enjoyed it and thought that we were cool enough to be Daniel or Allie, or in Skeeter's case, Johnny, because I just wanted to be Johnny. I don't know why.
Wendell, did you want to be Allie?
A little. Can you blame me? Have everybody fighting over me? I'm in.
All the guys.
You know what? Attention is attention, and we don't judge. Not on I Heart Geek.
I just wanted a cool boombox.
I had that. I think I did have that boombox.
And a dirt bike.
Yeah.
On the beach, though. It has to be on the beach.
Now that let's start this. How old were you when you watched Karate Kid around, and what was your first impressions? We're gonna go around the board. Let's start with Tyler.
Oh, I think I was definitely in grade school.
Mm-hmm.
I was only born in '83, so by the time I actually got around to watching it, I'm sure it was on in the background.
Yeah,
much younger. I got around to watching it, probably 6, 7.
So, what was that first impression for you?
Back then there was a lot of the mysticism with karate, and it was super cool.
Mm-hmm.
We'd play fight. There was a whole lot of crane kicking going on.
Oh yeah, the worst kick in the world. Yeah.
Right. But it was good. It was instantly a hit with me.
Nice. Michelle, what about you?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I mean, I
don't need exact ages. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
that time in your life, you know.
Yeah, obviously a young kid. So what? I think I remember vividly, in grade school. Only, that was when it actually came out.
We were in 6th and 7th grade, respectively.
Yeah. We're not going to say who's older.
I'm not saying a word, but I was in 6th grade. So you can take what. So what kind of impression did it leave on you?
Being for the female opinion, obviously most of my friends, we all had crushes on Daniel in the movie. But I think just back then, karate was becoming, or was just this huge
thing.
Yeah, it was in the 80s. It was karate, everywhere, and I think everyone really latched onto that. So I think for me though, um, you know, all of us girls, you know, we were just that was our crush, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, we all wanted to be the Ally love interest
It's
character
the
and all that.
badass with the sensitive side type.
Yeah, yeah. And what's funny is that, you know, as you get older, you start to go, well, wait, I don't know, maybe Johnny wasn't so bad.
Well, we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
John from California. What about you? You were like an amoeba, I think, when it came out.
I was 3
Yeah.
when it came out, but I remember watching it when I was like about 5 or 6, probably about the same age as Tyler. I did take karate as a kid. That was fun. Our church had lessons in the basement. You know.
Oh no. No, there's no good that can come of this story. Absolutely none.
My uncle was one of the teachers.
Oh.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
I'm so editing right now because this could
Why are
go
you editing
so
right
many
now?
bad places. Come here, kids. This is what a kick feels like.
No, my uncle accidentally getting his nose broken by a guy who came in a few belts below him, and they were sparring, and he got a nice kick to the face.
Well, them belts don't mean nothing, do they? What about you, Skeeter?
Well, I was 9 when when the movie released. I remember watching it at the theater in the Mount Shasta Mall.
Movie 3.
Yep.
Yep. And I remember leaving the theater and immediately like going to Dan Verdugo's karate studio and standing outside the window going, I can do that.
And then you never
I can do
did.
that. And then I never did.
Because that seemed like it was the story.
Yeah.
You know, I loved this growing up. I was pretty young when I watched it. I remember. It was during that period that there was everything was karate. It was Chuck Norris was big, and you know if you were sort of cool, you kind of knew who Bruce Lee was, and it was he'd been gone for a while at that point, but that was still The Last Dragon had just come out about the same time with Bruce Leroy. If anybody remembers that one. No, nobody, no takers.
Don't forget, also you had all the ninja stuff going on, like American Ninja. That was going on about the same time as well.
No, that was American Gladiators. American Ninja was a lot later.
No, it was about the same time.
There
was this fascination with like Eastern martial arts and crap like that. Like Ninja was part of that too. I remember all the
period of time was ninja.
Everybody
karate.
wanted the ninja outfit or the karate outfit for Halloween.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Every Halloween costume that the boys had they were all ninjas or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, this movie was a big part of it. What really, hey, white kids can go do karate, and that's that was fine, but it seems like it definitely lost all the appeal pretty fast. And I think I can actually point to the time that it did. Is they had all those
third movie?
No, it actually had nothing to do with the movies. It had to do with, and I remember it was 8th grade. Somebody brought in a tape of UFC for the first time. That was when there was no there was no weight classes or anything else. They had sumos fighting, karate guys. And then this guy put in this tape. He goes, "This is what happens to the karate guys," and they just got eliminated like horrible. And I feel like that's that moment that everyone's like, yep, this is not for me. I will take my headband off and I will go play 3 chords on the guitar. Yeah, that's when that factor got cool, I guess. So let's actually kind of move into what they did right with Cobra Kai. I mean, we all honestly obviously have great memories with the Karate Kid movies, or some of them. What did they do? Because we see every day, we see reboots that happen that are terrible. They do everything wrong. Cobra Kai seemed like they did everything right, and it was a completely different take on everything. What's everyone's thoughts on what did they do that was so right that changed the game on this, Tyler?
It really feels like you picked up from 30 years later, 20 years later, something like that. It really just feels like they just, okay, hey guys, we're back. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you.
Yeah.
What's up? And you get to see, okay, he's got a family, all that good stuff. That was the one thing that stuck out the most, I think, is that I was expecting, okay, here's these other characters that you don't know that were in the movies, but just behind the scenes, adding in things like that. No, they just took everybody that you knew.
Mm-hmm.
Said, this is what they're up to, and we're gonna follow them around for a bit.
Yeah.
Johnny was exactly where I expected him to be.
Yeah, and unfortunately, yeah.
But Daniel, we learned a little bit more about him, and it wasn't much of a surprise. And
Yeah.
we'll get into that, I'm sure, in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
Another thing that they did really well is they had the next generation of kids that came in, but it's not like when you watch the Saved by the Bell when, well, we have Zach Morris and then we have Zach Morris Part 2, the next generation.
Right.
They didn't do that with this,
Everybody
and I really appreciated that fact. What about you, Michelle? What do you think is what they did so right?
Well, I think you have to give like massive credit to the main characters for just. I mean, it seems like William Zabka, who's Johnny, it was like he brought in his character like the guy time forgot, and it was perfect.
Because we all know him.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, that totally tracks. Like he is exactly what I would have thought. Like the typical guy who's stuck in the '80s who never really grew as a person or anything in his life. And I think the angle that they took where they're trying to show that they gave us more of an insight too on his background and maybe where he was coming from, where, we all thought Daniel was the hero, in the original movies. And now all of a sudden we're like, oh, wait a minute. Like we never really actually saw Johnny. And we didn't learn about Johnny's life and how he looked at Daniel and what was going on with Allie and then the tournament. And you have to remember too, like he was being massively abused by his
stepfather.
Well, actually, yeah, but I was actually talking about Kreese.
John Kreese, yeah.
That's
toxic,
true mental abuse. I usually think that's bull, but that was true mental abuse. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. So for me, I loved it. It was like Tyler said, it was like they just picked up and like you believed it. You believed that this was 30 years later, and
yeah. John?
I thought they took a good line between nostalgia and playing back to the original movies and not fully going bad, like not jumping the shark fully with like the going after all the crap that you remember from the old movies. There are a couple of times where I kind of like, is a little paying too much fan service, but for the most part, I think they did a good job of just towing that line, like between, keeping it fresh and keeping it, and also kind of stepping back a little bit. You were talking about like, other revivals. Like I went through and watched all of Mad About You on Amazon Prime and then watched the revival that they did last year or 2 years ago. And it was horrible. Wow. It was not 2019 and it was horrible. Like it just between Helen Hunt's bad plastic surgery and the fact that they were just trying to, it was just essentially felt like they're just redoing episodes before. She looked like a cat person. Her face like looked pulled back and she looked like a cat person. So it just
moving on from other shows.
No, but it just like they that was a bad example of how to revive it. And then Cobra Kai did a really good job of just kind of making it feel more grounded and gritty. Like it was kind of like in a time where I'm tired of like everybody like, oh, it's got to be gritty now, but it actually did a decent job of not being like too gritty. Yeah, well, it's not even just that. It has nothing to do with like the color correction. It's like I'm talking about like, oh, there are no bad guys. Everybody's gray. And it's like, well, yeah,
they kind of are.
There's more gray to it in real life, but at the same time, there are bad guys, Yeah. So you can't like that. And just when everybody's like, oh, it's all moral relativism. It's like, no, not necessarily. There are bad people.
Yeah. Skeeter?
Oh, I felt like they transitioned well. Like you get the end of, you get the All Valley Championship, you get the big kick, you get
that nobody goes to anymore. Yeah.
Right. You get the victory, you get all of this stuff, and then boom, 30 years later, it's success and it's failure. Like you got Johnny, who was the kid that was driving the super cool prototype car and motorcycles, and
he's still driving the same one. Yeah.
All that, but then we end up being we see now what Michelle was talking about, like who was the good guy and who was the bad guy actually, and you get that transition and you see this guy really trying to work Johnny to make his place, and Daniel's like, I got room to screw up now because look at me, I'm Daniel LaRusso. I won the All Valley Championship. That was the only thing
Twice.
that killed me, was like we kept going back to that. Like everything was kick the competition, and I'm like,
But you know what? That's what that kind of pathetic individual that never left high school will do.
yes,
You know, I mean, we all know people that are still reliving old glory days. You know, they're still on the football field. You know, 4 touchdown passes, whatever.
Yeah.
And
Living vicariously through their children.
Yes.
Which Daniel is a little guilty of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I really liked is the way they did the nostalgia beats. For instance, when you go to golf and stuff, we all remember that scene for whatever reason, and then they go and it's still there, it's dilapidated, it's about half torn down, and no one really goes until they start going again. And that's kind of the cycle of things. So they start fixing it up again. It starts to look a little better. But that's the right way to handle the nostalgia beats without it being a total disappointment. It's like, oh, it's closed down, let's go find something else, which is what these reboots usually do. Or it's exactly the same and it's all glory. And that's not a real thing either.
But they did really well, like getting those goosebumps up when, with the Miyagi house and the
Yeah.
cars and the backyard, and like they killed it doing that. And that's what I love about it, is like that's what brings you back. Like
Yeah.
everything about Miyagi's dojo and everything that was there, just like, man, I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
that. Oh, that's so cool. So
I like what they did in season 3 where they went to Okinawa. It wasn't even like,
Oh.
it's living it. They basically, it was the perfect metaphor for you can't live in the past, you have to move forward. And it was just kind of interesting, just like that whole thing. I was like, oh, he's gonna go. I knew when he was going to Japan, I was like, of course he's gonna go to Okinawa. He's gonna go back to the village, and then it's like, oh, they have a Red Lobster. Like that.
Yeah.
That whole thing. I was like, oh, that's kind of a good deal. Like just having, and then the stuff with Sato and all that. It was just like, I thought they did a really good job of resolving that issue. And it's like, if he can resolve that issue, he can resolve the stuff with Johnny. I think the Johnny stuff's a little bit harder to deal with because it was a lot longer. But I think
but Johnny wasn't trying to kill him literally.
right.
Was he though? Like if you think about some of the stuff that he did to him, like beating the crap out of him up against a fence when you got 4 guys on one, like I mean that's how you put people in the hospital.
Yeah, but you're also not in a literal death match in front of all your friends.
Or people he knew.
People he knew, I guess. Well, and the girl he kind of had a crush on or something. That was so forced. I hated that. Yeah. So another thing I think that they've done wonderful is the music. Now, they took all these 80s songs and really put them into kind of a modern setting. I know Michelle was researching that a little bit, which I think they did really well because they brought it modern, just like we were talking about with the golf and stuff. They brought it modern, but they still kept the heart of the 80s that were in there. What were some of those ones that you were talking about, Michelle?
Well, so we've got, and this is straight off the soundtrack too. So we've got Queen, AC/DC, Motley Crue, Poison, Moody Blues, Twisted Sister, Journey, Foreigner.
Nice.
And then of course, they had to feature the Cruel Summer song. So that was Carrie Kimmel, learned that. Scorpions, Roxette, The Who, Whitesnake, Wang Chung. If anybody remembers.
Yeah, and I think these were
Wang
all
Chung.
on the original soundtracks too.
Yeah, I mean, and what's cool is that they worked all of this music in, which is so fitting for Johnny, and it just worked.
Yeah.
It worked. And then of course, like I couldn't watch any of the episodes without the "You're the Best" song
I
coming
love
in my
that
head.
song.
Yeah, so that was
And-
great. It was great how they did that, and I'm glad they didn't try and force, like I guess like more modern stuff because
Yeah.
it's, to me, like we're almost reliving, especially with Johnny. He's just constantly reliving the 80s, but it was cool to hear all that music.
Yeah.
I think they kind of used it as a tether almost to
Yeah.
keep you back there,
Yeah.
in the root.
Mhm.
But
Like nostalgia
if
is
things
just
get
huge.
too modern and they don't have the right soundtrack, then you're gonna probably start losing focus. They keep you right there in the old movies,
Yeah.
using that as a tether, kind of.
Yeah, well, a big one that I thought was a great tether was "Cruel Summer," which is
Yeah.
a song that we all can relate to, whether we were at that age or not. But they played the updated version of it that's really moody, but it so worked because it kept you in both worlds.
Hmm.
You know, another thing I'm loving about this is all the backstory they're telling. Um, I love like the little things like the car, the Mr. Miyagi's car that you see in back in the 50s or 60s.
Hmm.
That was it was such a throwaway thing, but it was so cool because you were so much more invested in that story at that moment because of that car. So what are some of those other throwbacks that you guys are enjoying hearing the backstory to? I mean, the crease is huge, I think.
Yeah, that was real enjoyable.
I think honestly being able to see Johnny's story for me was the best. Not only his home life, but then reflecting on, what he went through with Crease, because you get that in the
Yeah.
movies, but then now you're seeing, wow, like how horrible of a person Crease was, but then they give you his more of his background.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys thought I don't know if there was sympathy there, like, you're learning what he went through and the horrible things he experienced, so maybe that obviously that contributed to him
Yeah.
now?
I didn't necessarily feel some sympathy. Like, I mean, I was like, okay, I kind of understand where he is, but also at the same time, it's like, it didn't necessarily make me sympathetic towards how he is now. Because it's like, okay, yeah, people have been through some rough stuff, but they've also like come out not homicidal.
They've
You know,
made
like,
they've made him
yeah,
irredeemable.
Yeah.
yeah, like
I
it's
think they
kind of
know
like
that.
it's just like, oh, we're gonna do a movie on Hitler and do his backstory. Is that gonna make him sympathetic? No, not really. I'm not comparing him to but it's like
I hope not.
it just, yeah, no, he didn't. It's not the same. But I mean, like, it's just you can't like you're still responsible for your actions. Like Johnny never went like full whatever John Kreese is, and John Kreese like legitimately killed a dude. Like, and it wasn't like, oh, this was war. This was like, hey, I easily could have saved his life, but he didn't. Like that to me just kind of like was like the nail in the coffin. It was like,
But the
yeah.
bad part of that is that most of us can sit there and we can be judgmental on what a dirtbag he is, but not many of us would do something different than that. Honestly, in that situation, when you're talking about the pit fight, because he was going to kill him and not even think twice about it.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
thing is, though, is they were being liberated, so it wasn't like he still had to kill him to survive. He killed him because he wanted to get back at him, and
But
that's what I'm
again,
saying is different
that's the
than
one
like,
time that you can feel. I say I'm not saying that you're ever going to feel an excuse, but you can feel more of a sympathy on that, or more of a relation. And
I felt oh, sorry.
go ahead.
No, I felt sympathy only because of the fact that he was never told his girlfriend was dead.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that level, like, I totally get, like, the rage and revenge that you would want in that situation. So maybe for that moment, I was totally like, "Oh, I had no idea,"
Yeah.
you know?
But I think in that moment when all of that was going on, you think about that particular person, like it was Crease's fault that he didn't take the shot when he should have. He didn't do the thing that he was supposed to when he should have. So they the the CO didn't tell him, you know, about his girlfriend, and then he used that at an opportune moment, and Kreese was like, "No, I'm gonna go up there and fight him." And I think he was trying to challenge him, but at the same time, he got what was coming to him, and that's kind of what created this no mercy character that we
Yeah.
had throughout everything.
Now, this is something that I wonder because they played with this, and I don't know if any of you guys picked up on this. In the second season, he was bragging about some of his military exploits, and oh, the first student for Cobra Kai, what's his name?
Um,
Miguel.
Miguel calls him out on it, goes, well, no, you couldn't have been in this place or this place at the same time. Oh, I've just, I've done so many things. I lose track of things. Could be a throwaway line. It could be they wanted to go call him like a complete liar about his service, or maybe we're not even seeing the truth about his backstory. This could be just what he thinks because he's a nut.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know
he
where they're
wasn't
going
running
with
Black
that.
Ops. He was just a
He was a cook.
liar.
He was a cook.
And that could be it, because he made himself out to be in those background stories. This guy should be a god.
Mhm.
I mean, just incredible, and we're not seeing that for whatever reason. So I don't know if that's a on purpose thing. I don't know if it's something that the writers did and then forgot about. But that throwaway line in the season before, when he caught him with basically stolen valor.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we're going to see, as he's making that phone call at the end of this last season, to this person, we're going to see maybe some more truth to the whole thing.
Yeah. And we'll see. I think that what we're going to see, we all know who's on. Spoilers. We all know who's on that phone call at the end of season 3. If you could stomach watching the third awful Karate Kid movie, you know who it is. It's the guy that looks like the Green Power Ranger.
Was his name Terry Silver?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Terry Silver.
That's the only one of the Karate Kid movies I only watched once, and I was young, so I didn't care. It lost all the magic at that point.
But you love the Hilary Swank one, right?
No, no.
The next Karate Kid. Oh,
and then
or the Kung Fu Kid with Jaden Smith and
yeah.
what's it? And
No, let's just pretend that those don't exist, because those were awful. I think those
should be.
I'm glad that they did this reboot, because I think that's what this series deserves.
Yeah.
And it's very rare that you can say that a movie that was impactful on everybody's life in some way or the other, and it really was. Anybody that is from the age of 50 down to, I would say, probably even down to in the early 20s, this movie has made an impact. And I think that this reboot is finally what it deserves. Those other 2 movies were not. This is. And I think that the legacy, that's the word I'm looking for. I think this makes the legacy proud. And I think this makes the movie relevant for another 20 years.
It does. And this movie was like the original movie. You got to think about it. Like, as much as it was like perfect for the time, like it hit every avenue. This movie got an Oscar nomination. At least Pat Morita did for the movie. And the decisions that were made on the scene that they thought gave him that Oscar nomination, I think it said it was the crying scene when he was drunk in the house.
When he was actually drunk, yeah.
When he was actually drunk. And they did that, and they feel like that's what got it for him. But I think the nostalgia that this whole thing had, like, and the way it held on, because it was easily overshadowed 2 years later by a little movie with a bunch of F-14s in it.
Yeah.
But
don't ever watch that movie with me. I will ruin it for you forever.
Me too.
It's such a good movie. Why do you hate Iron Eagle?
But well, wow.
Oh, you just broke me. Hold on.
That was easy to forget. I'm not gonna lie. I'll probably get beat up, but I actually like the original Iron Eagle.
The first one. The
We've
first one.
lost Dub.
The very first one we did. He's gone. See ya. Gone.
We've lost
Come
him.
up.
Just carry on without him. It's over.
You gotta run the
I'm trying to get this back on the rails. Wow. John broke me. John, you just 10 points for John.
So is this 2 podcasts in a row that I broke somebody?
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well done, John.
Wow. That threw me for a loop.
Thank you.
Let me move to a different area so that I don't die. Let's talk about our favorite new and old characters. I want to hear who's your favorite old character, why, and I want to hear who your favorite new character is. I think this is and I think it's going to be an interesting dichotomy. Talk Tyler, let's start with you, bud.
Old character, it's going to be Miyagi.
Yeah.
Just that sweet old man that you just can't get enough of because he's always got a way, a little one-liner to set you in your place.
Mm-hmm.
It's so enjoyable to watch him train and everything. Not to mention the guy looks like he needs a walker, but then he will put you down.
Yeah.
As far as new characters, I have yet to latch on to a single one.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, because I mean, each time I start really liking somebody, they take a turn, and that might be by design.
That's kind
Uh,
of the fun of it, though.
I
Too.
was I was kind of liking Johnny's son, Boy Meets World, there for a little bit.
I thought the same thing. I thought that was like his son or
But he
something.
really took a turn there in the last, when he, I think it was the last episode when he
Yeah.
fought the dude there in the yard. Is this
I
this
think
is
it's a
how it
bit
is?
much.
And it's like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how it is. I mean, he didn't even write or call. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. But honestly, Johnny deserves the treatment he gets from his son.
yeah.
But he deserves it, but that I'm not saying
to an
that it
extent.
should be an excused. I think they're both they're complete dirtbags, both of them. I think Johnny's actually more of a dirtbag because he's the dad. But what about you, Michelle?
Obviously, original would be. I was a Daniel fan, Mr. Miyagi, but now I've really latched on to Johnny. I just
New
he's in
Johnny? Yeah.
new Johnny. He's very endearing. Like I said, he's just this guy who's like lost. He's just been stuck in the 80s. His life's he hasn't grown as a person. Like some of the things he says are so cringy.
He can't get out of his own way.
But it's awesome.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
but
awesome.
but you see him, just start growing. Like you just see, and what's so amazing is you do see that in the character is the growth, and
Yeah.
he's learning, and he's just adorable with his laptop. He has no idea how to use any of
I
this
thought
stuff,
it was
and
wireless.
the battery ran out. And then I love Miguel. I love those two sort of like Miguel's bringing him out and
Well,
and
he's
helping
Daniel.
him
Yeah.
grow. Yeah, he is. And what's cool about Miguel, he is almost like a blend though of Daniel and Johnny from
Mm-hmm.
he's got qualities of both of them, and he's almost like this binding force because then you see Daniel and Johnny kind of uh sort of trying to set their rivalry apart.
And I don't think they ever should, to be honest.
I think with those two, when this series continues, I don't think that's ever going to fully go away.
And I don't think it should, because
No.
that's not real life. I mean, no matter how much water goes under the bridge, if you have that much history, there are things always.
Yeah.
It's always. I mean, you may get along, but that doesn't. And that may not make you frenemies, but
No, there's always going to be that little
something.
rivalry. But yeah, I'm a Johnny fan.
Fair enough. John from California.
As far as old, I'm in the same boat as Tyler. I love Miyagi. He was by far the best part of that whole series. I was watching the Alien Ant Farm video in the movies like a few days ago, and I forgot that he was in it. And
Really?
then he comes running down the aisle when they do like a call back to the Karate Kid in that video, and I'm just like, oh, I love Pat Morita. He's so good. Like he just makes you smile every time you see him in something. It's so sad that he couldn't be a part of this. Like I really feel like he was the glue in the original series. It wasn't like so much Danielson's story, but as more as Miyagi, like being a dad.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about him. As far as new characters, I love Dimitri. That kid's so funny.
Oh, I hate that kid so much.
I love him so much because honestly, I kind of I feel for him because he reminds me a little bit of me in high school. Like,
I would have beat up John in high school.
Yeah, I know you were a jerk. You were a jock. I get
No,
that.
I was not a jock.
Well, okay, I'm sorry. You weren't athletic, but you were that kind of guy. No, I love him. Like I loved just all the stuff with the cast. Like when they drew the phallus on his cast, and then the girl
yeah,
that kind of stuff. I really liked him. I loved how he was trying to get everybody to like keep the peace. Like, hey, the real enemy is Cobra Kai, not each other.
Yeah. A common enemy is the best thing you can ever have for a group of people. Skeeter, what about you, bud?
There's the obvious. I mean, there's your antagonist, your protagonist, Johnny. There's Daniel, Mr. Miyagi. I think, like, for me, watching like people's transition and realizing that they're actually not bad. So like Bobby in the original,
Get him
like,
a body bag.
right,
Greatest
he's
line
that
ever.
guy. And then all of a sudden he goes in there and freaking shreds his knee. And he's like, I'm sorry, Daniel. I'm sorry. Like, he's down in his face, like apologizing, realizing that he made a horrible mistake.
Yeah.
Then you see this kid in the new series and he's a pastor.
Mhm.
Like, you're all, wait a minute. So I think like that person, that role, like, was the best transition for all of them, because you got Daniel living All Valley champion twice, still living that role.
Under
You
18,
got,
even though he was 20. Yeah.
right, he was 22 in the filming, like
Yeah.
trying to be a 14-year-old, and then you had, or 16-year-old. Then you had, Johnny, who's still living in the past, trying to move forward. But like the person that moved forward the most, other than the other ones that were not okay, um, was Bobby, who transitioned and got past all of that
Yeah.
until they all got back together and did their thing in the first
Then
season.
hilarity ensues. Yeah.
Right. But I love the big three, Johnny,
Yeah.
Danny, and uh Miyagi. But I really think that that's who I look for in transition.
Nice.
So that's my favorite.
Hey, and
No.
just a quick comment. Tommy is the body bag.
Oh,
Yeah, Tommy's
okay.
the body bag.
I don't know.
And it makes me sad because
he died.
yeah,
died.
and he's so
But he did get to do it one last time, and I think that it was a nice touch.
That was cool.
So my favorite was originally was Mr. Miyagi, because he is a good reason why I am a massage therapist, or have been for a lot of years. When he did that thing, that's when I, did the hand thing, and then, pop the joints back in place. I started doing that when I was a kid because of that, and that led to me starting to do massage. So I didn't realize how big of a impact that made on me from that little moment, and it was such an intense moment. I'm like, he's rubbing his hands together and making them warm so that it doesn't get cold when he pop. As far as the new guys, I really like Hawk. I like the fact that he went from being picked on to being the bully to being the guy that he needs to be, and he's going to stand up for the kid. There's something about his whole transition that I think was just done right. Yeah. On the original,
I think they belabored it a little bit. Like they kind of dragged it on. Like
they had to.
It was like 5 episodes of like, oh, is he gonna finally turn? Oh no, not this time. Oh, is he going to? Oh, not this time. It was like a Ross and Rachel like thing. Like, oh, is he gonna stop being the heel? Oh, no, sorry.
I want to know what reputable tattoo place will do a back piece that large on a kid that's like 14.
none.
And to have the quality. That's the other thing. It's like,
that's a pro tat.
To not look like a prison tat. Like
that was a pro tat.
It's like his like sister's boyfriend was like a good tattoo artist or something. Like that's like the only way that would happen. Because like I know none of those places will touch you if you're under 18. Like
that's like that was at least a 10-hour sitting.
That was a garage job.
Yeah,
with
no,
a really
it was
good
not.
artist.
Yeah, right. And I got a bridge I need to sell you somewhere. You know what I wonder from the first movie, and this is something I thought about it because I recently rewatched. The kid that introduces Daniel to the apartment complex that he kicks down with the door. It seemed like you see that scene, they're going to be like friends, and you never see him again. What?
They let him down at the beach, and that was that. He walked.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Nothing. I guess
they probably had more scenes with him, but it got cut out in editing because they had to cut it down to a certain amount.
Yeah. No,
But really, like, how many how many people in your life when you're young you have these moments with and you never speak to them again? So.
And then there's those you have a moment with and you're friends with for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Life is weird. So this show always, every single season has ended on a cliffhanger. How do you guys feel about that? Or do you think that is cheap?
Standard operating procedure, isn't it?
Not
Yeah.
not necessarily.
Most shows, they tend to end the season with, like, especially if they know they've got another season or they're trying to force another season.
Well, the
They'll do the
second season they
cliffhanger
didn't think
because,
there was.
well, but they still try to do that because that way, if they do, it forces them, especially now in this day and age where it's like, if you have enough people saying we want this to come back, it'll come back in one form or another. Like there's been like several shows that were on, regular network TV and then got picked up by like Netflix or somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give it one or two more seasons. And I mean, I think they would have continued on the YouTube thing if the YouTube thing actually made money. But I think it's just YouTube did such a crappy job of making their little TV thing profitable. And so they had to sell it off to, like, because they sold off everything. Like, there's that one show on Amazon, Wayne, that was on YouTube Premium for a little bit. And that's a good show too. But it's like I think in this day and age now, it's like if it gets canceled, it doesn't mean that it's canceled. It can be picked up by another network or another streaming service. Like, it doesn't have to be the end of its life.
Fair enough.
Yeah, look at Psych. I think like the cliffhanger piece, like there's some that really need that. I don't think Cobra Kai needs a cliffhanger to pull you back for the next season.
I think everyone's in.
I think everybody's in. I'm fully bought in. But it's like I look at shows like The Sopranos, where season 5 there wasn't a cliffhanger. Season 6 kicks off with the superstar of the entire show getting shot. Like that's a cliffhanger for the end, but it starts the last season of this show with what the heck? Like that's crazy. So they sucked you in because they realized that, well, you know what, this is the end. We better keep people attached. But this show doesn't have to do it. It doesn't have to do it at all, but it does it, and it makes you like.
But it's different though if they know, like, that was like with The Sopranos, they knew that was going to be the end. So it's like you can do that where, okay, you have that final season coming, but like thing with like Cobra Kai, they didn't necessarily know for sure if they were going to have a final season or not, because this was actually already filmed under the YouTube banner, and then Netflix bought it. It wasn't actually
That's
Netflix
true.
who produced this. It was YouTube that produced it, and then Amazon, and then Netflix bought it from them. So they're doing this stuff because they're trying to make sure that they don't get canceled.
Yeah.
That's the big difference, is you want to make sure that people are like, okay, we got to see what happens next. We got to see what happens next.
I find it to be kind of cheap. I'm not a big fan of that. Once in a while, yes, I think that it had one perfect cliffhanger and the rest have just been cheap. What has been your guys' favorite cliffhanger on this show so far?
I mean,
I'm kind of excited about next season, to be honest. Like, I know, like, I don't think they can do many more seasons. Like, I think
they got 2 more left.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, like, I'm kind of excited for them to take on like the new Cobra Kai 2.0. Like, I think it would, I don't know, like, I just kind of want to see what they're going to do with Kreese, but it kind of feels like the first couple of seasons were them revisiting Karate Kid 1. This season was revisiting Karate Kid 2, and the next, whatever season is going to be Karate Kid 3 with the crap with Terry Silver. But I think, I don't know, I'm kind of interested to see how the dynamic plays between Johnny and Daniel doing the Miyagi Do, whatever. I forget, like, what
Miyagi Fang.
Yeah, Miyagi Fang. I still want a freaking Eagle Fang or whatever, like, t-shirt.
Yeah.
I want to get one of those.
I'm sure you can get one.
They sell them. I've seen them.
oh, they do.
But yeah.
I think I think it's unfair to say it's cheap for a cliffhanger. I think the nature of this show is that there's just going to be a cliffhanger because of these characters and what they're going through. We didn't touch on the fact that how important that trip to Japan was for Daniel. The fact that Allie came back. I don't think they're done with Allie. I think just the nature of it. There's cliffhangers.
I think they resolved all the stuff at the alley. Like, she was just there to kind of help Daniel and Johnny get through their crap. Like, there's not much unless they decide to have Johnny not get with Miguel's mom, You know, like
That's an
that's really
interesting.
there's really not
Allie
much you can do with her character anymore.
Allie was a good point too. Is I got sucked in when Allie came back because I'm a girl, and I got sucked into like the whole oh gosh, you know, Johnny and Allie and their bonding and all these things, and but it was pointed out to me like she wasn't meant to be this love interest again for Johnny. She was a catalyst, and I get that they brought her in for that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? That may have been it, but we might see more of her later in. I maybe in that same kind of role, and even if it's just him keeping in contact with her or something. But yeah, I kind of got sucked into that
I
too.
don't know if you listened to the episode of Nerdist with or ID10T with Elizabeth Shue. She was on just recently, and she talked about how she was happy to actually get to do that because she felt like Ellie got done wrong in the
Yeah.
movies, and so she felt like, oh, finally there's some like redemption to her character. Like she was able to, I guess, tell her side of the story and get closure like with that character. She felt it was more like she actually was glad to get back to do that.
I loved her character in this.
I would actually be more upset with that portrayal at the end because of this. It seemed like if she was that oblivious to what was going on between those two, then she wasn't a very good person, really.
Yeah.
And
I think she was
manipulating.
I wouldn't say good person. She just wasn't like that good of a girlfriend.
And if she noticed it, then she was manipulating, and she enjoyed it.
Right, because I mean, she left Johnny for Danny, left Danny for a college kid, you know, for the college guy at UCLA.
But Johnny kind of did that to her though, like because she really was just friends with them, and then he just was jealous and decided to, you know, push them together.
Right, but I like the fact that like we saw Johnny getting with Miguel's mom, and then that broke apart, and then he got back, and then all of us were I was sitting there going, "Don't do it, dude. Don't do it. Like she's sucking you in." And he stopped. And I was like, that was the redemption moment. They had the whole meeting. He walks in with the white coat. Did anybody else think that it was spaghetti night?
Yes, I did.
With the white coat. I was like, oh, it's going to turn. The tables are going to turn.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to go back to Japan for a minute.
Yes.
When we met Kumiko's daughter, did anybody else think the same thing? Yep. I did.
That was Daniel's.
Yeah. I was like, oh, no.
And I'm glad they didn't go that way.
Yeah. They
Daniel's a lot of bad things. You don't want him to be a deadbeat dad too.
Right.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up Japan because Japan was such an important trip for Daniel, not only because he was going to try and save the business, but then so Kumiko, the fact that they brought her back, then they brought back what ends up happening is they bring back the girl he saved during the typhoon when they were there originally, and it's the same girl.
That's true.
Who in turn, because of what he did as a teenager, his heroic action comes back full circle, saves his business. He finds out all these things about Mr. Miyagi, even more that he didn't know. So he's taking that back home. And now you're starting to see Daniel in this in his own transition. So he's realizing that,
and a cool new karate move that saves the day.
Yeah.
I love that move, the punching the armpit and making their arm go freaking numb.
And the fact that he Chosen like tweaked his nose. Oh my god, I lost it.
I've been waiting 30 years for that.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but
I love how they have Chosen barely understands English, but the dude was like born in California.
Yeah.
Like literally, like he really doesn't have that accent. It's so great. Like
neither did Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, no, but anyway, just I want to see more of not only Johnny's growth and transition, but Daniel's too. I think he learned a lot
to train the kids. I want to see that part. That would be awesome to bring.
If Kreese calls Karate Kid 3, Daniel needs to call
Will Smith. Oh no.
Kung Fu Kid needs to die. Okay, like just leave that movie in the past.
We believe that didn't exist in the I Heart Geek bubble. So,
do you think they'll bring Hilary Swank into the next season?
No.
That was so disliked as a movie. I mean, I think that was the first one that lost money. Nobody liked that movie.
That one, no, that one did not do as well either.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to learn when to stop.
They've done everything right so far. I don't think they're gonna.
Yeah. Those are examples of what not to do.
So here's my final question. I'd like to hear your predictions for the next season and possibly the season after. Since we all agree this can probably go maybe 2 more seasons without killing the legacy. It could be wrong, but I don't think so. So let me hear some of your guys' predictions for the next season, or even if it's not a prediction, let me hear what you would like to see. Start with you, Tyler.
I'm just kind of along for the ride. There's not a whole lot I want to see. I've seen everything I wanted to see at this point.
That's fair.
Because we probably are going to venture into bringing people back from Karate Kid 3, and now you hit that point where we didn't really need to reference anymore.
Yeah.
But the guy's going to come back. Silver. His student, the guy kept screaming in Daniel's face at the mat. I don't know. Maybe we'll get some sort of appearance by him. But other than that, I don't really have any predictions for the next season. I just kind of like to see where they take that. Because like you were saying before with Kreese, and maybe he's just a nut in his history in the military. Maybe this guy's going to come and straighten the record for everybody. And it'll go a whole different direction. We'll see.
Yeah. Michelle?
Like I said, I don't know about the Ally thing. I kind of think they're going to use her at some point as well. I really want to just see more of the growth of the characters, Daniel and Johnny, and not only individually, but you can see them obviously now as we ended the last season, that now they are going to be forced to work together, and they're going to have to work through their own, personal issues. Then you've got the kids. I really want to see some kind of a change in Johnny's relationship with his son. I want to see how that kind of grows. And then I believe with Miguel too, they need to kind of work their stuff out, and I don't know. There's a lot of just relationships, little strings that are going on that would be really cool to see how that all grows. And then above all else, Kreese. He's like this demon figure, especially in Johnny's life, that he has to deal with personally, and now they have to deal with him, in these situations. So I think there's a lot. I mean, I get it. 2 seasons is probably good. I'm kind of attached, so we'll see.
People that watch American TV too much have to have a million seasons. I'm just kidding. That's not so snobby. John from California, what about you, bud?
So I think season 4 is going to be them leading up to the All Valley tournament, and the last episode's going to end with the beginning of the All Valley tournament. I predict probably right before the second to last episode of season 4, there's going to be some falling out between Johnny and Daniel, and the dojos are going to have to get everybody back together and be like, hey, you guys need to get your crap together. We're coming up on a tournament. The typical crap that you usually see, like, because they even do that, like in this show, it's like 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the season, there's some big falling out, and then the last like episode or 2 is them getting everything back together. And I think the season 5 would be the actual tournament and doing some like time jumps, like back and forth between stuff. Like you got a little bit of the tournament, like the first like episode is like maybe the beginning round of stuff, and then but there's flashbacks to training or whatever else, like, or stuff between Daniel and Johnny, like when they're in high school, just crap like that. Like I think there's going to be a lot of time jump back and forth during that season.
Very good. Skeeter?
I think season 4, I think you're right. I think it's going to be really preparation for the tournament. I think there's going to be a lot of, back and forth between Cobra Kai dojo and the Miyagi Fang, whatever they call it. I think there's going to be still continuing that back and forth. But I honestly think like there's going to be like a big, instead of there being like conflict between Johnny and Daniel, which we all realize is probably going to happen. I think there's going to be some type of loss that creates this big push towards the tournament, and like we have to win. I'm a little concerned with the direction of the phone call, and then bringing in Karate Kid 3, and kind of that whole piece. But like, I have to wonder, what is a Vietnam era, anytime you ever need anything, you call me, favor, what's that going to look like?
Mhm.
What's going to end up with Kreese? Are we going to find out more that the backstory was all a mirage or some big
Yeah.
kind of made up story? So like, that's a possibility. And then this guy takes over and turns all the Cobra Kai kids into ninjas, and I don't know.
That would be
but
jumping the shark at that point if they did that crap. It's Jackie Chan comes back and he teaches them all kung
Oh,
fu.
stop!
Oh.
Stop!
like
stop,
I just
stop.
think that if they go too far, I think if they go more than 2, I think that's what's going to happen, John. Like, seriously, I think that's where
They're
they're
gonna
go.
have to jump a shark after 2, and that's why, as much as I do love the show, I don't want to see them try any longer than they should.
Well, that's the great thing about some of these streaming services. They'll let the shows like, okay, we know it's like profitable, but if this is where you see an end, we'll let you end here.
Yeah,
They haven't done too much of like, oh, you need to keep it going. Like, what was it with Lost? Like ABC made them go like 2 seasons longer than they wanted to.
Oh.
And
I
so
think they did that with The Office too.
I don't know about that, but I think they like the streaming services tend to be like, okay, whatever, we'll let you guys end it here. We're not going to try and keep stretching it out longer and longer.
Yeah.
So by Skeeter, by loss, are you thinking like maybe they're gonna kill off somebody
I think
or
I think somebody's going to go away, or
in some way?
someone's going to, yeah, in some way. I don't know if they're going to kill
Johnny ends
somebody
up in
off,
jail.
or something is going to happen to just create this, we need to fight for them, like get
Kind of
one for
like
the Gipper.
when with Miguel, when
Yeah.
he was
The
injured,
whole back breaking thing, and
yeah.
That was the best cliffhanger, by the way. I just wanted to put
That wasn't
out
so
there.
much of a cliffhanger. I saw that coming like a mile away. Like the way they kept like shooting that whole scene, I was like, okay,
No, you knew it
somebody's
was
getting
gonna
kicked
happen,
up,
but they
Well,
didn't.
you
somebody's
knew.
getting kicked
Next
over the rail, and somebody's getting their back
Yeah.
broken. They kept like just doing stuff over and over. Like, okay, can you guys just finally do it?
Yeah,
Well, you knew something was
pushing
gonna
at the
happen.
stairs.
Yeah, but like the extent of it was, I seriously thought he was going to be dead or something, like some tragic.
You can't kill off Miguel. I'm sorry. Like if it was,
I know,
like,
but
you could kill off the chick from that Disney show, Jessie, Emma Lister or whatever her name is.
Yeah, the Diary of a Wimpy Kid Girl. Yeah,
you could kill her off,
Yeah.
but you can't kill off Miguel.
And I don't know if anyone recognizes where that kid was. He played the autistic kid on the Parenthood series. If you watch that one,
Miguel.
You're talking about
or-
Miguel?
Yep, Miguel. Yep. I thought that was an interesting factoid. Now, normally when I end these, I usually ask grades, but I don't think that's necessary since I think everyone's going to rate this as an A. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So, we're going
D
to-
minus Wendell. I'm kidding.
Yeah, and he's off the panel forever, just like that.
This is fun being on this show. This is my last episode.
No,
So do we think they're going to tie in Sylvester Stallone at any point for his time with Kreese and Rambo 2?
Oh, no.
I did like that
Please
they
God,
had
no.
and Tyler's off the panel, so
I did like
Listen,
that
just got
the
smaller.
flashbacks for John Kreese was actually that that actor's son. That's who played young John Kreese.
Really?
Can I just drop a fun fact?
Okay.
So, a couple of cool facts that I learned from doing my due diligence. Daniel LaRusso still owns he owns the yellow car still to this day. And the red jacket, the red leather jacket that Johnny wore, he still owns to this day. He still has the red jacket. Like
That's
when
fitting.
he puts it on, I think he puts it on in one of the seasons, like he's getting ready to go out or something, and you see him put it on. That's the jacket from the original movie.
Yeah, I
which
knew
is
about the
like-
car. I didn't know about the jacket, but
Yeah.
that totally is
That
fitting.
does.
Yeah, I had to, but yeah, just awesome stuff.
Okay, we're going to wrap this, but I do want to give special thanks to Neil Patrick Harris, because without him talking about Johnny being the hero on How I Met Your Mother, this would have never been made, by the way. I'd also, yeah, I don't know if you
I'm
knew
going
that. That's
through
where
that
that
show
came from.
right now again on Amazon
Yeah.
Prime. They just added it.
Yeah, that's where it's from. So yeah, thank you all for showing up. I hope you guys enjoy our Patreon stuff. And I'm Dub. I'm here with Skeeter and Tyler and Michelle and John from California. Keep on geeking on, guys. Thank you for your support.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the I Heart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.